Right? Foam swords. Okay. All right. Do this. Okay. Hello, sir. You know, I have nothing for you today, so work on film stuff. Okay, good. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so let's get back to the art, shall we? We've remember, yesterday... Yeah, there we go. Okay. Yeah. All right. So, yesterday we were talking about some of the artistic movements after Romanticism, right? So tell me, why did Romanticism end? Review time. All right, because the revolutions failed. So Romanticism is all about revolutions, isn't it? And so in the revolutions of 1848, we had all of these failures, and suddenly Romanticism as an artistic and cultural trend just kind of faded out. And now what are we entering into? Realism, because life is what? Real and hard, and it kind of sucks, to be perfectly honest. Yes?
It's kind of off topic, but are we going to talk about Rasputin?
Rasputin, of course we are.
Was he satanic?
You know, I don't know about satanic. He was kind of a witch doctor.
Yeah,
he was kind of a witch doctor. I'll save my fun facts about him until we get there.
I don't know anything about Rasputin.
I'll tell you about him.
I knew he like healed the stars.
He, well, apparently kind of looks scared. I don't know how you heal hemophilia at that time.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Was he portrayed correctly in Hellboy?
No. Nor was he portrayed correctly in Anastasia. Okay, just throwing that out there too.
That guy.
Yeah, that guy with the bats. That was not the right, no, not the good portrayal. Okay, so to get back to the art though, we're entering into realism. Now, yesterday we kind of covered realism to the extent that I would like to cover it because it's kind of boring. Now we're getting into the transitional stuff, starting to move a little bit closer into what? Anyone? Impressionism, very good. Okay, so Impressionism, we have for ourselves some Edgar Degas. Tell me, how is this kind of a mix of Impressionism and realism?
Yeah.
It's still moody like realism.
Okay, so it's still got that kind of, that somber, moody type of everyday, universal kind of thing that realism used. So, I mean, it's just somebody getting out of the tub, right? You know, average, okay? And kind of cleaning herself off a bit, too. But what makes this a little bit different from realism? Okay, so you're not seeing the face. Okay, what else? Is there something beautiful about it? I mean, the lady getting out of a tub, she's a good-looking lady, so I mean, that's part of it. And then with the colors, what are the colors? What was that?
What's on the back?
Shadowing. Yeah. So, what's the coloration doing here that makes it not so much realism, but it's entering into Impressionism?
Not so.
What?
Into like almost more like a dreamscape.
There you go. Entering into some of that that color that just kind of blasts at you in a way, but it's not exactly detailed, right? So it's entering into almost a dreamscape in some ways, but you don't have exactly detailed coloration because in Impressionism, what are the colors supposed to do? Blend together. Why? Okay, so it creates an illusion for the eyes, doesn't it? Because it's no longer about detail, now it's about color, and letting color tell the story, and letting color be the thing that appeals. So did we read Steve's Open Shaw last night? Yeah. Yes, good. Okay, so you guys are going to be able to tell me more about Impressionism and things as we go along. Here's another Edgar Degas. Blue Dancers, tell me, how is this impressionistic?
Because it's not so detailed.
Not detailed? What else? What else makes this cool and impressionistic? Any ideas?
Well, there's kind of like no background. It's just like
Yeah, so there's no emphasis on the background. It's all about these four dancers, and they're all just kind of blending together. And they're kind of, the colors are kind of wistfully done, because dancers, are they meant to just stay in one place rigid like a statue? No, that's no fun. Let's have it be kind of wistful. Oh, it's, well, you know, I don't know.
They're all wearing the same stuff in the same kind of way.
well, maybe
Interesting hypothesis.
And look at their hairstyle, too.
Yeah. I don't know. You know, that's up to the viewer.
Yeah.
Because the thing about modern art is it's so subjective. It's up to the viewer. If you want to think that this is about one dancer and you see her four different movements, sure. Yeah, go for it. Yeah, all right. So,
And then the four aspects of the same.
oh, indeed, sir. All right. So now we're going to look at realism in literature a little bit. So we should have talked about this a little earlier, I guess, but out of sequence, that's okay. So we get a little bit of realism in literature, and so some of its tenets, we're trying to depict life exactly as it was. We've got lots of the commonplace kinds of things, which honestly, a lot of this stuff is Victorian literature. Have you guys done much Victorian lit? in AP English or in, you know, junior English? I know you guys read some of it, didn't you?
No.
Not really? What about The Mill and the Floss? Did you guys
Didn't
ever read
read
that
that.
one?
That
All
was
right,
like
tell me
summer
about it.
reading.
Tell me about it.
It was like really every day, like this happened and then this happened and that happened, and it was really boring.
Really boring, isn't it? Okay, I'm not a fan of Victorian lit. It's fairly, you know, drab. There's usually not a lot of excitement. Typically, the most excitement you're going to see are character flaws. Ooh, character flaws like drunkenness, right? And it's not even, you know, fun drunkenness where the people are doing debaucherous things. It's just like, I'm an angry, bitter man and I'm drunk and I'm hitting my wife or something, you know. It's not fun. Okay, so we see some of these things, like from France, we see Henri de Balzac. You guys remember reading Henri de Balzac? Yeah, he's got a funny name. Alright, so, Henri... It is a funny name. Alright, so, Henri de Balzac. Remember when we were reading about Father Goriot? Father Goriot was a part of this story of the human comedy. Remember Father Goriot from Sherman?
Yes.
Yeah? Father Goriot, what was his issue?
He's really rich, but
Was really rich, and then he's got these, you know, 3 just evil daughters that are just taking all of his money. Kind of sounds like King Lear. You guys ever read King Lear, Shakespeare? Dang, you guys are missing out on all this good stuff. All right, so Henri de Balzac gives out all of his money to his daughters, and do they love him anymore?
No.
Because what matters in society in the 19th century?
Money.
Money. All right, so bummer for Father Goriot. So the human comedy, is it really that comedic?
No.
No. All right, so really it kind of sucks. Okay, and it's very similar to what Dante did. Remember, what story did Dante write? The Inferno, which is book 1 of the overall book, which was called the Divine Comedy. Indeed. So in the Divine Comedy is, you know, the afterlife all that comedic either? No, okay. So, and then from England we get Thomas Hardy, Return of the Native. I know many of you read that one, right? What you think of that one? I still have not read it. You know, it sits on my shelf, and I was like, all right, I'm going to buy this and read it just like the AP students. But every year they tell me not to. Okay, so, you know, I should still read it, but I'm just, I don't know, I'm not into it, I guess, now. So, tell me what makes it real or natural.
It's not really real or natural. It's like a crazy love triangle.
Okay, that happens, doesn't it?
Not really. Not as far as that.
Well, okay, but let's also think of the. I don't know what happens with all the characters, but just talking generally 19th century bourgeois relationships. We've got bourgeois middle class members of society that are being set up by their parents, almost like an arranged marriage. And so you've got these somewhat arranged marriages. They don't marry for love. And then what's bound to happen when you've got, you know, a 35-year-old guy marrying a 20-year-old girl who doesn't really like him that much?
Is he gonna
That's
find
fair.
something that-
She is going to be a saucy little minx and adulterate herself. Yeah, that's, you know, that happens. Okay, so that's life, unfortunately, at this time. And so people, not being good about themselves in many ways. Count Leo Tolstoy, he's another good one. I really enjoy Tolstoy. Has anyone read him? Okay, he's got some great stuff. If you don't want to take on War and Peace because it's, you know, the size of the Bible, if you don't want to take that one on, then you could take on some of his short stories, which are really good, too. A lot of it, where was he from? Oh, well, darn it, it's on the right. Yeah, duh, sorry. So, he's from Russia, and he is a nobleman, which is interesting because as a boyar, he's writing about the lives of lower-class people a lot of the time and the struggles that they have moving from serfdom into peasanthood. And becoming, you know, higher-class citizens, essentially. He writes about their struggles. He also writes about the struggles during the Napoleonic era. And so there's all this romanticism mixed with realism, and you see the, you know, destruction of characters, and it is pretty good stuff. And then Kate Chopin from the USA, The Awakening. She writes a really incredible novel. Anyone heard of Kate Chopin or read her? No? Okay. Anyone who's a women's lib person? Women's lib. Ladies, all right, so everybody loves it more, and what's that? Okay, so women's lib folk out there, you should read Kate Chopin. She's fantastic, because you notice the first publication of her book, 1899, her story is about this, you know, young woman who was married to another guy and was not interested in him, didn't love him at all, and so he keeps going away on business, and while he's away on business, she strikes up a little love affair with her neighbor who's friends with her husband. Oh my! This is Victorian era. We're not even showing our ankles in the Victorian era, and yet this saucy little minx is striking up a cavorter's relationship. I mean, come on, do you see the issue here? And so she's
It's like then time 50 Shades of Grey.
yeah, okay, but maybe not quite to that extreme. But yes, okay, yeah. So it's saucy. Let's put it that way. So saucy story, and so I'm not going to tell you how it all ends, but let's just say it's not good for the main character. All right, Kate Chopin herself was rejected by her contemporaries in society, despite publishing a lot of really interesting stories. And so she commits suicide. She jumped off a bridge into a river, and so yeah, it didn't go well for her. You notice though, huh? Big enough to die. Okay, how about that? So 1890. Well, I don't think she lived through it. Let's put it that way.
I've seen someone like YouTube guys that jumping off like they're like professional divers jumping like a 350-foot cliff.
But they're what?
Professional diver.
Professional divers, not a woman who's trying to kill herself. So I'm guessing she dove into intending to knock herself out and floated away with water in her lungs. There you go. Okay, so 1899 was the first publication. They quit publishing it after that because it was too saucy. Only went through one publication. But then they brought it back in 1969. Any ideas as to why they bring it back in 1969? All right, the late 60s, early 70s, women's lib movement, right? So, big story for them, and it's a lot of literary naturalism that not only worked for that time period, but America in the 70s as well. So Impressionism now. We're getting into Impressionism where we have novel techniques for rendering light, atmosphere, and space. And how do we do it? How do we use what are these novel techniques that we're talking about? Light, atmosphere, and space. What do you think? How do you do it?
Colors and the way you
Colors.
the way you paint it.
There you go. It's all about colors and the way in which you paint these things. So we're trying to do a freshness of vision for the subject, meaning that that it's not so much focused on this detailed subject in our foreground. Instead, we're using vibrant colors in kind of like a blurry mixing on the canvas in order to produce these images. So the way I like to think of it is, let's say that I take some colors. And I don't use a color board, because normally when you're an artist, where do you mix your colors? On the palette, right? You've got yourself a little palette here that you mix your colors to make the perfect color and then paint it with detail on the canvas. Instead, what you're going to do is take all of your colors and mix them on the canvas. What would be the difference there? It would blend a lot differently, too. And you would have much less ability to plan how it blends. And that's the idea with Impressionism. Because by this time in history, what invention do we have that makes it so that we don't need detailed pictures anymore? Film and the camera, exactly. So now artists are like, well, crap, I have no reason to paint if we already have a camera that everybody wants for detail. Now I'm going to intentionally make pictures that are not detailed because it'll be more interesting. So the way I imagine is just taking my glasses off, looking at something and be like, wow, there's some nice colors there, and it kind of looks real, and I can kind of make it out, right? So, and then I run into things. Yes, okay. So we also see perceptions of the modern era in this as well, portrayed visually. So here's a little video that I got for you on YouTube, and the guy is honestly a little weird. I can imagine that when people watch my YouTube videos, they think the same thing. All right, but here you've got kind of a weird dude talking about Impressionism and how beautiful and wonderful it is.
Isn't that history class course?
No. Not sure why he chose this song.
The thing that we want to remember is that Impressionism was all about capturing the nuance of light. Impressionists were truly against painting a picture with any moral message like the artists of the past. Yet, they had a very firm understanding of color theory, optics, the nature of light, and Impressionists like Monet, for example, would place various colors side by side on the palette, and instead of mixing the paints on the palette, they'd literally juxtapose them on the canvas. And this was called optical mixing, juxtaposing yellow and blue, for example, to make green. And this created a much more vivid color in the eyes of the viewer. Now, when you stand up close to an impressionistic painting, it all blurs together. But as you step back, the subjects and the colors take form because your eye mixes the paints on the canvas. The invention of photography also had a profound influence on the Impressionists of the day. The way they handled perspective and the relationship between subject matter and space. The invention of photography essentially freed these painters to become more abstract with their subject matter. Impressionism was all about light and color. The Impressionists also had better, more sophisticated pigments at their disposal. Therefore, their paintings were more saturated in color. They also made every effort to reproduce the fleeting atmospheric effects in their paintings. Monet painted the same subject over and over again to try to capture the exact color and how the sky looked and how the trees looked in that specific light. They also enjoyed working directly from nature. This is a first. Most artists in the past worked in the studio. These artists, Manet, Monet, Renoir, Pissarro, they worked directly from nature. Now, the Post-Impressionists, Cezanne, Van Gogh, Gauguin, these artists used impressionistic techniques, but they wanted to take the style to a whole new level. So in addition to using the techniques of the Impressionists, they embedded their paintings with more passion, more emotion, more expression, and they used color to communicate what they felt about the world in which they lived. Essentially, they were synthesizing reality through their personal vision. These artists, Van Gogh, Gauguin, Cezanne, were searching for a deeper meaning in their art. And the Impressionists and the Post-Impressionists set the stage and influenced the direction of modern art. And that's a very important point. We really see modern art starting. The seeds are planted from modern art with the Impressionists and the Post-Impressionists. These artists were not really respected during the time in which they painted. In fact, they were scorned, they were laughed at, they were rejected. And now it's quite interesting that the Impressionists and the prints of the Impressionists are the most sought-after art forms of any other style. More prints of the Impressionists are sold than any other art style since the beginning of the creation of art itself. So Impressionism is all about light, all about color, and uses the visual element color as the primary element to not only define the subject matter, but to communicate to the viewer. And the Post-Impressionists took what they learned from the Impressionists, the concept or the technique of optical mixing, and they took it to another level because they were striving for deeper meaning and incorporating more passion, more emotion, more inner expression into their art.
Now, how would you like it if every time we talked about art, I said it like that guy? Huh? I know, it's really annoying, isn't it?
I feel like it's
That
seriously hurts.
Cezanne, Gauguin, Monet, Manet. Okay, no, concur. Weird video, but has some good points to it, doesn't it? Okay, so one of the big things you need to pick up from that, photography no longer makes it necessary to have detailed art. That's a good thing in the history of art, because if you're an art history person, it's way cooler to get into modern art because it's weird and it's hard to interpret, and it's, you know, it's just so far removed from the Renaissance style that we had before. So another thing that you need to pick up from that is how we're mixing the colors, and it's an effect that's used in art that you need to know. What's it called again? Optical mixing. All right. So what you do is you take colors, mix them on the canvas instead of on the palette, and let your eyes do the mixing on their own as you, the viewer, are looking at it. All right. A good example of that is if we take a look at this one. This is very famous. Who's this? Claude Monet, and it's called Water Lilies. How many of you have this hanging somewhere in your house? Anybody? Anybody? Wow, you guys all stink. You guys are uncivilized. Mine's hanging in my room. I've got this one. This is an awesome painting. All right, so Claude Monet, Water Lilies. It's a great painting, very famous painting. And I mean, if you look at it, how do you see the optical mixing happening?
It's a blue and a lily.
Yeah, so rather than putting kind of a detailed spin on the water, because with water in the past, with art, you can see the reflection in the water, right? And first of all, is the artist actually standing above the water, painting it in old art, like Renaissance art or Baroque or anything like that? No, where are they working? In a studio. Now, Monet, he's actually standing over this pond, and several times over, he's painting the water, trying to capture exactly the way it would look through his perception with the optical mixing. So he's not adding the detail of his own reflection there, because that goes against Impressionism. But then he's also allowing optical mixing to happen with the water lilies themselves, rather than giving you an ultra-detailed picture. All right, and the same kind of thing happening here with another Claude Monet, which is Highway Bridge. So what makes this impressionistic? Tell me about the tactics being used here. And the reason that I want you guys to do some of the analyzing here is because on the AP exam, especially if you ever take Form B of the AP exam, they very frequently have an art question. And typically you have to compare one time period of art to another. So for instance, Renaissance art compared to 20th century art is always a popular type of essay topic. All right, and so this would be something you could be, having to analyze. All right, so tell me, what makes this impressionistic? Or how does it reflect the age? Vibrant colors, okay. And then the water, what about it?
Blending.
It's blending. You can still see the reflecting on this, can't you? But it's not detailed. Because typically on this doesn't appear to be a placid kind of water. It must be a river, for instance. And so on a river, you might see some reflection of objects, but would you see it in perfect clarity? No, you might on a placid lake, right? That's, doesn't have waves going on. All right, but this one, definitely using the optical mixing as well. All right, and then here we've got another one. This one's from Auguste Renoir, another very big Impressionist painter. So again, how do you see Impressionism? How do you see the spirit of the age? If you had to talk about this as a historical artifact, what would you say? Okay, so it's not detailed. So good. So we're looking at the artistic point of view with that one. What about historical? What does this say about the time period? What's changed in the late 19th century? Okay, it's peaceful. We've got two ladies there. Tell me about their social status. Peasants, right?
No.
Obviously. No. Okay, working class, obviously. No. What are they? All right, so they're bourgeois, if not upper class, right? You can see a nice house in the background. That would be an upper class house, maybe lower bourgeois, or excuse me, upper bourgeoisie, so they're kind of upper middle class. And then you've got these ladies who apparently have some free time on their hands because are they having to work? No, probably not. Not if they're dressed like that and just out going for a little float. And then you got a sailboat in the background too. So a big thing that was different, it seems odd to us now, but a big thing that was different in the late 19th and early 20th century was this emphasis upon leisure time. So when you're not working, you're supposed to use like your Sundays, for instance, for leisure time. Now, that wouldn't have been a weird thing back in the Middle Ages because, you had Saints' Days all the time. But do you have that in the industrial era? You have Saints' Days every week that you take off from work and, go out and have a Blue Monday, get yourself a little toasty. Do you have that kind of thing? Anyone? No, you're not supposed to. Okay, so that's an emphasis upon leisure. All right. How about this one? This one I really like. This one's pretty cool. This is Gustav Klimt, and I think that's how you say it. Paris, rainy weather. Tell me, how can you tell? We're in modern Paris. Not the old Paris before the Napoleon III. All right, so you've got streets that are what? All right, they are paved, and so these are cobblestone streets, and they appear to be fairly new. They're not the medieval cobblestone streets that we had before Napoleon III with the real narrow, winding roads, right? Because remember, Napoleon III, he hired a civic I don't remember what you call it, civic planner? That's it. And then, what was his name? All right, so George Haussmann. So, George Haussmann, what did he do with the streets in Paris? Widened them and brought in boulevards. And so you see the really cool symmetry of the building here leading us off in different directions, but that we don't have winding streets. We have definitely much more spherical streets that are going in circles around these boulevards. And then here you've got, really nice paved streets, and then all these bourgeois members of society walking around in the rain. How can you tell it's raining? Other than the umbrellas, that's obvious. All right, so we've got colors used in the clouds to create this rainy appearance. And then the water, exactly. So you can see the water pooling in the middle of the cobblestones. You can see the reflection on the water for people as they're walking. And then, you can tell these guys are middle-class bourgeois members because what are they wearing?
Black.
Well, yeah. What else? The top hat. They got the stovepipe hat. They got the nice three-piece suit.
Bow tie.
Bow ties, indeed. You typically wouldn't see a working-class member of society wearing that too often, unless, of course, it was a Sunday and that was their Sunday best. But you can assume that these guys are bourgeois. All right, what about this one? Okay, anyone know what kind of art this is? This is Georges Seurat, and he's doing a Sunday afternoon on the island of Le Grand Jatte. So, anyone know what kind of art this is? It's not necessary. It's not Impressionism. Pointillism, exactly. Pointillism. What does Pointillism mean? All right, a tiny little dot. Okay, so let's say that this is my paintbrush, right? I'm going to take the tip of my really small paintbrush, dip it into a color, and then put a point. And then I'm going to take the tip of my paintbrush over here, and then put a little point. And then a different color, put a little point. There are millions, literally millions of tiny little points all over this thing to create this picture. All right, and this is a huge canvas that he's working with too. All right, so think about that for a second. If you look really closely at it, can you see the little points? Yeah. Back there it might be harder, but those of you that are up in front, can you see them? Yeah, and what do we have as the subject here? What kinds of... This is definitely something you could see on the AP exam. All right, so as opposed to like getting out of a bath or that one we had from Edgar Degas. So how is this one reflective of the time period? Other than the fact that we're using pointillism as a new form of art, how is this reflective of the time period? It's a Sunday afternoon in France. Okay, leisure time. It's a Sunday, so you're hanging out. Do you have a mixing of the classes? Yeah, so where do you see bourgeois? Okay, so this lady with her corset and bustle, right? Remember the corset, 18-inch waistline, ouch, butt plugs to keep it all in. All right, and then the bustle, just because it's fun. You got to have a skinny waist and a huge badonkadonk, right? If you're a bourgeois member of the woman. All right, and then the three-piece suit and the stovepipe hat and the canes. Then this dude, what do you think he is? He might be more working class, but he's still chillaxing here on the island of Le Grand Jatte. All right, and then you've got domesticated animals. You've got little dogs and a monkey. Wait, what? Okay, so you see the monkey there? What's that telling you about the monkey? Okay, they domesticated a monkey. Wow, okay. Is that typically something that happens in France? No. What age are we in the midst of, though? Imperialism! Indeed, sir. So we have imperialism happening. You see a monkey that we've gotten from Africa. What about this dude? What kind of hat is that?
Baseball cap.
No. Imperialistic hat. So this is what an imperial explorer would wear. It's kind of like a helmet, right? It's kind of like an explorer's helmet. So this guy wearing his explorer's helmet, you see the age of imperialism here. You see the sailboats and a rowing team, right? You see the Harvard rowing squad there. And then what about this? It's a little smokestack, isn't it? That's a tiny little steamboat. Just cruising around, just for kicks. It's fun. Yeah, we're on the island of the Grand Jatte. Why not? Okay. Yes?
In my elementary school, they did the exact replica of that picture and put teachers' faces on.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
I thought it was pretty cool.
You know, I've seen something like that before where they reenact the picture and get it exactly right, but it's different figures and detail on the faces, so you can see who they are. Sometimes it's in photograph, so it's not exactly pointillism, but still, really cool. Really cool. Yeah. All right, then here we're getting a little bit different, right? So this is moving out of Impressionism itself and moving into what? Abstract. All right, not quite abstract. So this is where it gets complicated. I'm giving you lots of different art forms here. So first we had realism, then we had Impressionism. Now we're moving into Post-Impressionism. Okay, big deal, right? So, Post-Impressionism with Paul Cezanne. Any ideas what the difference is between Impressionism? I'll go back to one for you. So, Impressionism versus Post-Impression. More vivid coloration. Okay, so why do that if you're Paul Cezanne?
Even less realistic.
All right, even less realistic. Exactly. Okay, so, but they're letting the colors convey the emotion here. And so this is just a still life. It's just an everyday kind of thing. And yet, what makes it interesting? Because normally, I don't look at a blanket with a bottle of, adult beverage and water and some fruit sitting around and think, wow, that's art. Okay? But artists at this time are seeing that. Why? It's not the subject itself that does it for you. What is it?
It's the emotion.
It's the emotion they put into conveying it through color, right? And so that's a big emphasis in Post-Impressionism. Here we see another still life, and although I don't really think that it's all that still. It's Paul Cezanne, still life with plaster Cupid. But to me, I mean, if you look at it the way this is happening, what does it look like? What looks like is happening here? It almost looks like things are falling toward you, right? So you've got this portrait here of Atlas. Can you see Atlas there? His knees down. He's you don't see it, but he's supposed to be holding up the globe, right? And so there's Atlas there. His portrait's almost falling towards you. You see, it almost looks like this piece of fruit is coming at you, and all of this stuff appears to be tilting over too. But then there's plaster Cupid just kind of hanging out there, having a good old time. But again, it's not necessarily the subject, but the emotion, the color. Now, you know what else this reminds me of is a statue in Belgium, in Brussels. If you guys ever go to Brussels, I just loved it when I saw it because I thought it was so funny. I even bought a little keychain of it, okay, because I thought it was so cool. There's a statue that looks just like this called Mannequin Piss. Okay, no joke. So, there is a little baby peeing, and it's a water fountain, just peeing. And it's like this huge tourist attraction called Mannequin Piss. And it's just a baby peeing into a giant fountain. And he's made of bronze. And it was so cool, I decided to buy a tiny little Mannequin Piss and carry it around in my pocket for a while as a keychain. But I lost it. Otherwise, I'd bring it in to show you Mannequin Piss. It's pretty funny. All right, look it up sometime. It's funny. Okay, so similar time period here as well when they were building that in Brussels, Belgium. Fun facts you learn from going to Europe, right? Okay, here's another good one. Who is it, of course? Van Gogh. And if you want to be snooty, you can say Van Gogh, because he spent a lot of time in the Netherlands. His museum is in the Netherlands. It's in Amsterdam, because he loved Amsterdam, right? Crazy city, so he sure enjoyed it. So Van Gogh is giving us Starry Night here. So one of the most famous paintings of all time. Tell me about it.
Weird. Crazy.
It is weird. It is crazy. Tell me about Van Gogh.
There's symmetry.
Van Gogh was crazy.
He was crazy. Why was he and his buddy Paul Cezanne, they hung out a lot, at least for a while, until they got mad at each other and
Did they have relations?
fight and they left, right?
Did they have relations?
No, they did not have relations, but they had friendly bromance relations. They were good buddies. They hung out in the beer pubs, and they drank a lot of absinthe. I mean a lot of absinthe, right? And remember, the absinthe is that green liqueur. You pour it over some sugar, and then it mixes and makes this weird mix inside the drink. And then a lot of artists drank this because they thought it would, take them to another level of sublimity. And, strangely enough, apparently it did. It had a strange effect because what did it contain that really messed with the brain? Wormwood. All right, this medieval poison substance. So just a little bit, just enough to make you kind of have a trip. So, they were tripping out on this stuff all the time, and you can kind of see it here. I mean, I don't want to say that his art was inspired by absinthe, but when I know about his background and look at his art, I see it, okay? So here's, you can see with the night, what's the difference between the starry night above and the town below? Look at the difference of how they're painted. Can you see a difference?
Yeah.
Okay, when you look at the buildings, do these have the wistful lines? No. These are structured buildings, staying in place, drawn, painted in, certainly an post-impressionistic kind of way, where you have lots of color, but they're not drawn with squiggly, crazy lines, are they? Why not?
Because he wanted to have structure on the bottom.
Yeah. So the town below is structured. The trees, they have these wistful lines, though. Any ideas as to why the trees might have that? Can't portray a tree perfectly because there's apparently some kind of wind blowing through them most of the time anyway. So there you go. And then the hills are a little bit more of those chunky lines there. And then the stars above, that's where your focus is, though. That's where it's just this constant chaotic flow throughout the skyline. And then this thing, a lot of people think that, when they first see it, it's like a castle or a fire or something. I think it's just a bush that's up in front of the artist's viewing as they're looking out above the town up into the night. And so, I don't know, any other ideas on this one?
I was thinking like a church.
Yeah, it kind of looks like a church steeple too, but if you look at it, it doesn't have the structure of like a building.
No, there's a church steeple right there.
Yeah, here's the church steeple. Yeah, but this thing, is that what you're talking about?
I think it looks like a tree, like a half cut off tree.
Yeah. So that's the way I've always interpreted it too, like a tree or a bush or something that's in the artist's view. Down below is the town, up above is the starry night. Either way, pretty cool. Pretty cool, right? Okay, this one's one of my favorites. I think this is probably my favorite Van Gogh because this reminds me again of Brussels. So after visiting Mannequin Piss, I went to a little cafe, a street cafe, where they were selling all kinds of crazy foods. Just sat down, had a little snack, and looking out at the town, it was just mesmerizing. Okay, you can't find this kind of scene in Billings, Montana, certainly. So, when you're looking out at Europe, any of you that have been there, eaten at one of these side cafes, or maybe if you plan to go there, maybe you'll remember this moment. But perfect, it's beautiful. What makes this post-impressionist? What do you think?
Color.
The color, again. And so how's he using the color here?
It's very bright under the
All right, so the cafe itself, very bright, bustling with energy. And then you got people in the street that are illuminated as well from the bustling energy around them. And you can see the horse in the cart right back here. See that? It's kind of cool. And then how is he using the light down below, right here in the street? Okay, so the cobblestones are reflecting it, probably because what has maybe recently happened? Maybe it has rained. Okay, so maybe it has rained, and yes, we do see electricity here as well. So possibly some rain that's reflecting the light off of the water in the street. So it's just, yeah, really cool, really cool. All right, and you also notice with the cafe, you don't see a whole lot of straight lines, right? You don't see like this, I mean, because this thing looks like it's dangerously drooping to me, like they did a really bad job constructing it. And that, why would that be intentional, Mr. Van Gogh?
Nobody's perfect.
Okay. All right, maybe. All right, we'll leave it up to the subjectivity on that one. All right, now this one also pretty awesome. Here he is doing his self-portrait. Whoops. All right, hold on. So, there, yeah, we'll get to that. Sorry. All right, so, yeah, now you guys aren't going to think about anything else. All right, so here you go. Here is Van Gogh doing his self-portrait. Anyone know about his background with his love life at all?
Did he cut off his ear?
Yes, why did he cut off his ear?
So you
His
said
right ear. Why was he depressed?
He sent it to a girl.
He sent it to a girl. Why?
She turned him down.
She turned him down, exactly. So he was like, oh, I'm so in love with you. I'm such a wonderful poet. I'm also drinking a lot of absinthe right now. And then she's like, yeah, I don't think so. And he's like, oh, no! So he cuts off his ear, sends it in a package to her. Oh, my goodness. And so here he looks, I don't know. I can't tell if he's bitter that he doesn't have his ear anymore or what. But I'd be bitter anyway. All right, but how's he using the lines here? The lines are important. How's he using them to convey the emotion he feels inside?
You can see it's trapped.
Okay, so his eyes are penetrating, you might say. His eyes, it's almost like a glare. It could be, a hurt expression, an angry expression, you name it. But his eyes are giving away some of his discontent. So is the stern-looking face. But you notice his face itself is, fairly detailed as compared to the rest of the picture, isn't it? What's everything around him doing? Blending?
Swirling.
Radiating.
Okay. Why swirl? Why the swirls all over him? You'd think a wall behind him. This would not be a wallpaper you'd see, right? So, why is the wall behind him swirling everywhere? And even inside of him, right here in his clothing a little bit, swirling as well.
Because
His world is swirling around him at this point, right? His world is a tempest of emotion. And so within himself, within his face, you can see stern, maybe a little angry, maybe hurt, right? But then all around him, this tempest of emotion. All right, so it's pretty cool. I like that one. And then, of course, you got to remember his right ear is missing, so I'd be pissed. All right, so here's and then what?
What's so special about the girl?
I don't know. You really liked her. Yeah. Someday you'll fall in love, Dino. And you'll know. Wow, I would cut off my ear for this girl if I really had to. Right? If she turned me down, I would just, there you go. I love her. Yeah. And then she'll turn you down and just be hurt. You'll be a tempest of emotions. Yeah. Okay. All right. So Paul Gauguin, another big fan of absinthe, by the way. So Paul Gauguin, he is making some different kinds of paintings. He spent a lot of time in Europe doing the same kinds of stuff that Van Gogh and Cezanne were doing with still lifes and that kind of thing. But now he's leaving. Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Now he's leaving from Europe, and where's he going? Elsewhere. All right, I don't remember which countries he went to specifically, but as we look at some of his paintings, you'll see these are just kind of weird, and they're definitely inspired by imperialism. So here you can see something inspired by imperialism. He's, somewhere in this tropical environment. He's got this strange figure, and then another guy in the background. I don't know.
Guy?
Okay, that's a dude, I think. Maybe it's a lady?
Yeah, it looks like a dude wearing
That was like an old grandma.
Maybe it's I don't know. I can't tell you.
Maybe it's a statue.
All right. What's the point though of tapupo? Tapupo. I think so.
Red light.
Huh? No, not red light district. I don't know if they have those in Papu. Okay, but maybe they do. All right, so here's another one. This one I absolutely love. Anyone have this hanging in their house? Seriously? I got this one too, hanging in my house. This is a great picture.
Why would you want that?
It's awesome. It was actually in my soon-to-be son's room, and then I was like, this might freak him out. So yeah, my wife insisted on that one. I was like, no, he's gonna love art, and she was like, we'll try it later. All right, so maybe when he's 10, he can handle this awesome emotion. Okay, so this one, who is it, by the way, or what's it called?
The Screen.
The Screen. All right, well done. You have the answer right there. Yes. So it's called The Screen. It's been by Edvard Munch, not Munch. All right, not Munch. It is Edvard Munch. Okay. So Edvard Munch, he is giving this really emotional type of picture here because very similar to what we saw with Van Gogh. What's the swirling meant to show to you, the viewer?
Emotion.
The emotion of it all. Okay. So this is a piece of art that's a part of a school known as Expressionism. Write that one down. Expressionism. So, it's different from Impressionism or Post-Impressionism because with Post-Impressionism they were using colors, certainly vivid colors, to portray their emotion. With Expressionism, they're taking it to a whole new level. So essentially you're jumping from Post-Impressionism to Expressionism by adding even more swirling colors to make it even more impactful with its emotion. And you can see it with this weird alien-looking dude who's just screaming his freaking head off because what seems to be happening all around him?
Whirlwind of emotion.
Yeah, the world feels like it's falling apart. It's just craziness, okay? So we're kind of starting to enter into this time period known as the Age of Anxiety. We see that a lot more after World War I when people start to flip out about, wow, we just killed 13 million people for no apparent reason. The world pretty much sucks. Humanity pretty much sucks. And we're degenerating into troglodytes. And anyone know what a troglodyte is? Caveman. All right, into a caveman. So here we see that with kind of the forerunner of that. A lot of the times in the Age of Anxiety, they use this painting from 1890 as as a symbol of how they were feeling about humanity. And so you can see he's not exactly happy. He's on a bridge, and then what's happening here? Yeah, so these two faceless figures either coming towards him or walking away from him. Either way you look at it, it's strange and disconnected from the subject himself, who apparently wants to talk out his emotions and is unable to. Yeah, one of them has a really weird head that's almost... Well, yeah, he's an alien dude. I know. I don't know what to tell you about that one. So, Expressionism, very strange type of art, certainly. All right, and then here we've got Henri Rousseau, not to be confused with Rousseau, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, right? Because he is totally different. But any relation? Well, not that I know of. Yeah. Okay, so Jean-Jacques Rousseau, he was the Enlightenment thinker. And what book did he write? 1762, he wrote a couple of them, one of which had to do with lawmaking. Said that the general will dictates lawmaking. What was it? Thank you. The Social Contract, May 15th, is rapidly approaching. Okay. And then he also wrote another book about child rearing. They had to write a DBQ about it in 2007, and none of them did well. Anyone? And it was on the actual AP exam, so it wasn't like one of mine where I tried to make it hard to scare you. What was it? Emile, yes, an entire DBQ on the ideas in Emile. Good luck. That was 2007. It's been 6 years. They are likely to reuse it because they reuse questions every 5 to 7 years. You never know. Watch out. Okay, so I'm scaring you just a little bit at the moment. All right, so that brings me to Henri Rousseau, a different guy entirely. He's an artist, and tell me about his painting here. It's what? All right, looks like Thumbelina. You've got this Lilliputian woman here, and you guys know what the Lilliputians are? They're from Lilliput, and they're tiny little people from Gulliver's Travels. Who wrote Gulliver's Travels? Jonathan Swift. Same guy who wrote A Modest Proposal, which was about? Eating babies. Yes, okay. Satire about eating babies, because we can't feed our own people because we're leaving them unemployed. All right, yay. All right, May 15th is coming quickly. Okay, so here we've got another post-impressionistic kind of painting, giving us imperialism as kind of the idea. Other than that, I don't know what to tell you. All right, I don't know what to tell you on that one. All right, here's another weird one. I really like this one. This is Henri Rousseau doing The Snake Charmer. Any ideas what this one says? What does this one say to you? Huh? Why is it creepy? Whoa! Whoa! Ombre. What happened here? This is plugged in. What happened to my charger? Okay. Oh, this is so embarrassing. Ryan? Ryan? Someone get Ryan's attention. Ryan, did you take my power charger from over here? Can I have it back?
I didn't take the charger, I took the cord.
What's this?
I plugged it back in.
It's not working. Can I have my cord?
Sorry.
That's all right.
He's not sorry.
No, it's all right. He can just be the one that's responsible for the awkward silence. I don't mind. Just kidding. All right. I don't know what happened there. That's weird. Ah, it's working! Yeah. You are now running on reserve battery. Not anymore, brosif. No. Boom. There we go. Thanks, Ryan. All right. So, back to Henri Rousseau. What is this one saying to you, the viewer?
Don't leave home.
Don't leave home. Okay, because what's out there in the imperialistic world?
Snake
Weird
charmer.
stuff that we don't understand, man. Like this creepy, sadistic black woman who is, teasing these black snakes. Okay, and so it's a little scary with her, little flute, kind of like the Pied Piper. Remember the fun fact about the Pied Piper? Huh? From the Middle Ages, what was the Pied Piper? He was a serial killer. Oh, you guys don't remember that? Reading about that in Manchester?
I don't think we never talked
Yeah, the Pied Piper during the Renaissance. You've always heard that fun fairy tale about the Pied Piper whistling kids away to go and hang out and hear fun stories. In fact, he whistled kids away, took them in the woods and butchered them. Who knows what? You guys didn't read that in Manchester? The Pied Piper, the serial masochist.
Wait,
Wow.
That guy was real?
Yeah.
He was a real person?
But they made a fairy tale out of him to, I don't know, initially it was to scare kids into behaving, but then it was like, oh, we should turn this into a nice thing because it's really scary.
So,
Yeah.
Bill, what's your what feels about realistic?
Never mind, I'll tell you later. All right, so, I don't have time. I'm doing all of these asides to, casually.
Pied Piper mean like give him money or
Like you're
give it to
dead.
you?
No, dude, it's like going to, like you're dying.
You're going to the Pied Piper, meaning you're dying. You're being
Pied
killed by a
Piper,
serial
you're-
masochist. Okay.
So where was this?
In Germany. Okay, so we're going to continue. I'm just casually quizzing you guys because it's spring and I'm going to do that a lot to try and get you ready for the AP exam. Apparently it's not working for me today. All right, so Henri Rousseau. Henri Rousseau, again, scary. So how many snakes do you see in this picture? Anyone?
3, 5,
All right.
5, 6.
I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then there's a weird monkey-looking thing, or maybe that's an owl. I can't tell, but it's freaky. All right, and then this weird branch that could be a snake. Actually, that's probably a snake there. Another one. And that one, that's another one. Jeez, that's like 7 snakes that I can see. And maybe that, as well, is another snake that's creeping out there. Oh, either way, freaky! Then this is the age of imperialism. All right, so now we're getting into the weird stuff. Here's a quick summary of some of the weird stuff we're going to see. We've got the fauves. And the fauves are the wild beasts. I'm pretty sure it's not the fauves. You can correct me if I'm wrong on that one, French-speaking people. Because this was a French movement. And the fauves, they were just honestly just kind of a little weird, as you'll find out through some of the examples I'll give you here. But they did this kind of process where color, as usual, color is going to be the supreme mode of expression. And it's going to give us some weird content, stuff that we haven't seen in art before. Then we've got Henri Matisse being the kind of leader of this intellectual and artistic movement. We've also got Cubism, and who's the leader of Cubism?
Monet.
No?
Picasso.
Picasso! All right, so Picasso is going to be the leader of this bad boy. He's going to invent it, okay? And so Cubism is awesome because what we're doing is we're avoiding realistic detail entirely. Many people, when they look at Cubism and other forms of abstract art that are like it today, they say, wow, a 4th grader could do that. It's just a couple of squares on a page, right? So that's, a fallacy, I would say, because very similar to we use the example of dubstep music, right? It sounds like cacophony, right? It sounds like it's just a mix of terrible sounds that are, you got the fat beat that's going, and then all of a sudden it's like, wah, and then, wah, and then weird stuff going on all over in that music. And yet, it's strangely beautiful, isn't it? Yeah, okay, it is strangely beautiful. It's very similar with Cubism. With this kind of art, I want you to imagine taking a vase, a beautifully painted vase, smashing it on the ground, and then throwing the pieces onto a canvas and seeing what it makes. That is what Cubism is supposed to be like. Because again, Picasso, he can paint whatever he wants. All right, a good example, I've got my Guitarista over here. All right, so this is a Picasso. I don't remember if I've got this as a slide. Does anyone see it coming up? Maybe not.
It was on the
It was
first
on
slide.
It was on the first slide. All right, I'll go back to it for just a second here. If we take a look at La Guitarista, this is from Picasso's Blue period.
No, no.
Okay, there we go. So from Picasso's Blue period, and why do we call it the Blue period? He uses a lot of blue. Okay, the reason apparently is because he started to realize, you know, my art is futile. All right, there's cameras, there's other talented artists out there. My art is not that fantastic. I'm going into this depressed phase, and then all of a sudden he starts making these really dark, somber, very blue, literally, pictures. All right, and so like La Guitarista, which is pretty awesome. But then all of a sudden he starts getting into the crazy cubism that we'll see here in a little bit. That stuff is going to be pretty incredible, as I would argue is the Blue period stuff. That stuff is pretty awesome too. That's one of my favorite paintings. All right, so we have Cubism in the early 20th century with the weird details, and you've got Picasso. Then you've got Art Nouveau. This is going to be this total rebellion against everything they see in society. Because with Art Nouveau, you've got this, you're in the midst of the late Industrial Revolution and the Second Industrial Revolution, and Art Nouveau people are like, you know what, we want to do everything the opposite of that. All of those structured, square, rectangular buildings, we don't like it. What are we going to make instead, Lauren?
Circles. Yeah.
Gaudi.
There are no like 90-degree angles.
Yeah, there's no 90-degree angles. Instead, we're going to make buildings that look like melting ice cream.
So like
It's
Dr.
pretty cool.
Seuss.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so we've got Gustav Klimt being an artist, and then Antonio Gaudi being the architect that's going to use this kind of stuff. So here we have the Popes. This is Henri Matisse doing the happiness of life. Huh, okay.
Looks like a nudist colony.
Well, yeah, I was going to say personally, you know, I think that there are other happy things in life besides being a nudist and running around in this bacchanalian escapade of free-for-all, right? Bring around the Rosie, naked. So, yeah, so I don't know what to really say about this one other than the fact that how is this a total, I guess you could say, antithesis to what we saw in Victorian society?
It's
Oh,
very,
God, a lot of
it's not real at all.
it's debaucherous.
All right, so Victorian society is rigid. You know, it's really uptight. These are the kind of people that would never talk about ankles or wrists because you're flirting if you're showing some wrists. And, we've got some serious ankle going on there, Miss Hanser. You better cover that up, right? So, wouldn't talk about that. And yet, at the same time, the Victorians got really excited about furniture, right? They got almost hot and bothered about seeing the legs of furniture. So they'd go into a house and they'd be like, oh my gosh, look at the legs on that piano. Woo!
Did you see
Dang! I need a piano like that.
Did you see this metal pole here?
Oh, no, don't get me started. I better not look. Okay, so, yeah, so you can see that they're, you know, repressing, I would say, if to use a Freudian term, repressing a lot in the Victorian society. Henri Matisse is doing anything but that, isn't he? Okay, yeah, we'll just move on from that one. All right, here, we're getting into Picasso. Picasso, this is Le Demoiselle. Is that how you say it, French speakers? Yeah, it's good enough for our purposes. All right, so this one is pretty interesting because this one is about some prostitutes, okay? So these are a couple of prostitutes in a Spanish brothel, and what he's doing here is not just showing you prostitutes, but he's trying to show Iberian history at the same time, too. And what's Iberia again?
That's the peninsulas.
Yes! Hey! Someone remembers something from the first week of school. Well done, sir. Okay, so the Iberian culture here that we see from Spain, you can see these two women that are meant to be, you know, in cubist form anyway, beautiful, meant to be cubistly beautiful. Then we see this lady who's apparently, you know, not as pretty. She's almost abused, it looks like. And then we've got these masked women. They're supposed to portray almost like a masked woman who's representing Iberian culture from the past and some of the strange aspects of their history. So, weird, isn't it? A little weird. But then it gets even weirder when you get into this kind of thing. What is this painting?
The sailboat.
All right, what do you guys see? He sees a sailboat.
I see a staircase.
You see a staircase, yeah? Other ideas?
I see a bunch of sheep.
Oh, no. Well, we're just talking about legs.
Yeah, I
like
see a
that.
sailboat
You just
sailing
said
out of the
He
fog.
said that was stupid.
Oh, okay. Well,
I see a
okay.
sailboat sailing into a fog.
All right. You guys want to know what it is?
Yeah.
It's It's a guitarist. Yeah, it's a guitarist. So, here is his shoulder. Imagine it. Here's his shoulder, right? Here is the body of the guitar, right here. Here's his hand apparently strumming the guitar, right through here. And then you've got his head swaying with motion back and forth. So 1 point, 1 point, right? Back and forth as he's jamming out on the guitar. And then here's his other hand wrapped around to play it. Can you see that? Isn't that cool? That is so cool. I love this picture. Remember his blue period, his former guitarista, he's like, you know, bent over like this, and all somber and sad. This one's essentially the same painting, but how's it done differently?
He was high.
Well, maybe. I won't put it past him. No, man, this is Cubism. This is Cubism. It's beautiful. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Picasso. Picasso, yes, he had a thing for young ladies, yes. Yeah, so he had, I think he had a young wife and then a young mistress as well. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so, guitarista. Yes, all right. What's this one? That was La Guitarista, again, but it was Cubist. All right, so then how about this one? What do you see?
3 people.
And what are they doing?
Playing music.
Playing music at a pub. Yeah, so you got this guy. What's this? Is this an oboe? Yeah? Yeah, so he's playing himself an oboe there. Then you got this guy. He is supposed to be the guitarist. Can you see that? His mouth is open. And there's his beard, right? So there's his mouth open. And there's his guitar in his little hand, strumming the guitar. And who's this dude?
Piano man.
He's the singer. He's holding the music there. You see his mouth is open, his beard around it, also singing away, right? So, it's cool. It's so crazy cool. And then their clothes meant to show some of the emotion that's going on. It's like a cool disco suit. You know, it's awesome. I think it's awesome. All right, this one is Gustav Klimt, and it's called The Kiss. This one's pretty cool. I don't remember the name of it, but it's Picasso. All right, so what's going on in this scene?
Kiss.
A kiss. Exactly. All right, so can you see the guy reaching over, giving her a lovely kiss on the cheek? Okay. Do they? How is the emotion portrayed here of the kiss?
They're like in a cocoon of love.
They're in a cocoon. That's good.
Butterfly.
Yes, that's good. In a cocoon of love, about to turn into a loving butterfly. I like. Well done, Cece. You should be an art critic. That's very good. Okay. So can you see the difference between male and female, other than the actual figures? Can you see the differences in male versus female in terms of the emotion? Where? The colors, exactly. This guy is draped in almost like a golden gown of squares, shapes, and rectangular shapes. Because men, what do you think?
Square.
Kind of square. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, all right. So, yeah, so we're like waffles, right? You can fill compartments, and that's, you know, what you do. So it just makes sense to a man. All right, whereas a woman, what do we have around her?
Circles.
Circles and flowers, and it's like, bam! It's just everywhere. Just loving this moment so much. And then flowers just flowing out of her onto the ground below. Loving it, isn't she? How beautiful. How beautiful. All right, that's good stuff. All right, Gustav Klimt again doing the portrayal of Adele Blocher-Bauer I. All right, how is this a really different, very Art Nouveau kind of spin on a on a portrait? A person's portrait.
Because she's not wearing any particular clothing. She's
Yeah.
wearing clothing.
So she's wearing clothing, and yet at the same time, it's not standard type of clothing, is it? Okay. If you're looking for tissues, I think there's some in the closet. Maybe. Closet. Okay, there you go. All right. So she's wearing clothing, isn't she? Oh, between the power cord and the phone going off, and now the sneezing. Okay, so all right. Is she wearing clothing?
Yes.
Yes, but how is the clothing portrayed?
Squares and triangles.
Weird-eyed geometric shapes with what's that called when you've got the pyramid with the eye in it?
Illuminati.
The all-seeing eye, the Illuminati. Yeah, I don't. So this dress of like Illuminati shooting out of her, right? And then her jewelry all around her right here. This weird type of composition. So it's strange, isn't it? And yet, why would a woman like Adele Blocher-Bauer I in the early 20th century love this kind of thing? Not finding it?
No.
Sorry. All right, good. All right, so because it's what?
It's unique.
It is unique. It's unique. It's totally Nouveau. Totally awesome. All right, very good. So, now we've got another weird one. This is Gustav Klimt. So, this is... Cece loves this one. So, this is... Judith and the head of Holofernes. True or false? We've seen this subject portrayed before.
True.
True! All right, remember, I don't remember her name. She was... I'm slipping on the name at the moment. She was that Renaissance painter. She was raped when she was 16, and so to take out her vengeance, she had a painting of Judith slaying Holofernes, and the blood was just shooting everywhere. She was a Baroque painter, right? You guys remember her? I just don't remember her name at the moment. But here we have the same subject, except in a very different form. Very... yeah, creepy Art Nouveau form, right? So, do you notice the similarities between Judith in this picture and Adele Bloch-Bauer in this picture?
Yeah.
Right? So, perhaps same subject matter, or same person that's being used as the model. So you can see the detail that's put on the face. She doesn't, it's a weird look on her
Well, no, you
face.
see the head, she's holding the head.
And she's holding the head. You see in the lower right-hand corner? She's holding the head of Holofernes. All right, so again, the clothing meant to represent the time period, you know, when Judith actually slayed Holofernes. So she's got the clothing of the time period to some extent, but at the same time, it looks nothing like it would have looked at that time because it's Art Nouveau. And so, how is he portraying the clothing here?
It's very realistic and very
Yeah, very good. So we see a contrast between the realism of the woman versus the non-reality of the clothing, the abstract qualities of the clothing. Right? It's kind of cool. Kind of weird, but kind of cool. All right, so we've got Antonio Gaudi, and we have someone who has experienced Gaudi firsthand, right? All right, so Lauren is going to do some talking about Gaudi for us. Did you go to this one? This cathedral in Barcelona? All right, so tell us about the cathedral in Barcelona.
Okay, well, like I said before, they're like, Gaudi tried to make it so they're like no right angles, because he wanted to go, I guess, because the industrial, like, how people are like making things now, which is like strict, like rigid and like, I don't know, straight.
So before you go any further on that, just hold on a second. What you were referring to there, during the industrial era, we had this idea in architecture known as form follows function. Anyone heard of this before? Form follows function means that the form of the building should follow the function it's meant to give you. Right? So a school, because we're trying to put you in a box apparently, how should a school look all the time?
Box.
Like a box or a prison. Okay. And a prison should also look like a box. And a work building should look like a box. All right? He wants to do things different here. Continue.
Okay. Well, so yeah, I guess like it's like a church. Like the things inside. I guess there's like a crucifixion in the middle. I don't remember like I had like a thing that I was listening to that told me all this stuff when I was going through. Yeah, but I don't really remember what they are anymore.
Okay.
But like the windows and stuff that like also like inside, you like look up and it kind of looks like there are flowers on like the top. Okay, there on the wall and stuff. It's just like it's so pretty in real life. You guys don't even understand. It's like it kind of has this like kind of like pink hue inside maybe. It's like all in white, but like the windows and stuff. And it like Gaudi made this, like he designed it, and then he died, and then Spain like kept as like building it, but they keep having to stop because it's so expensive, and then they keep building it like a few like years later when they get more money.
So you can see these scaffolds aren't normally here, are they?
No.
Okay, because those are not meant to be there like as a permanent thing. These scaffolds are there because they are working on it. When these pictures were taken, you can kind of see it on the outside here too. There's a scaffold and there's some scaffolding on top of the pillar or the spires. And so on the inside, you can see what she's talking about here with the cool colors. And another thing I was going to mention, back to the crucifixion here. Is this your standard style crucifixion?
No, his arms just keep on.
Yeah, so I mean, Jesus and all of the figures appear to be almost stretched because we don't want a realistic Christ or a realistic figure here because we want it to be different and new and against the norm. And so you can certainly see that here as well. Anything else?
What's it made of?
I think a lot of it's marble, isn't it? I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, it's got the whiteness of marble, but I'm not sure. That's a good question. All right, and then another Antonio Gaudi right here. Did you ever see this one?
Yeah, we want.
All right, tell us about it. Do you know anything about it?
I don't really know anything.
This is a
about
house. This is an apartment complex.
Looks like it's from, like,
Probably one of the most expensive apartment complexes to live in Barcelona, by the way. Yeah, so this is some dude's house. You can see him sitting there, I think. He's bald. Okay, so yeah. So he's got a nice, very nice house, though. All right, so he has I think this one's actually called the ice cream apartments or the melting ice cream apartments or something like that, isn't it?
I
'Cause
think
he-
so, yeah.
Because he's got a lot of different buildings, some of which are called like melting ice cream. Some are just, I don't even remember what this one's called. But you can see Spanish culture here, can't you? Where?
The colors.
The colors all along the walls and the cool illumination beneath all of these, what are those called? Balconies. And then, I mean, it looks like melting ice cream though, doesn't it? As you look at this stuff, it looks like it's just kind of dripping down the sides of the building. It's pretty awesome.
Where are the rooms like inside?
Okay. Rooms, I don't know what they're like inside.
I went to another building that actually had, I think that one, the one I went to, actually was more of like the melting ice cream, because it literally just looked like,
Yeah.
like the building was just like falling.
Yeah, because I don't think that's the melting ice cream one.
But it just like, it basically looked normal on the inside, but it showed, like, I guess the way they made it, I think, is that Gaudi like hung, like, I think, just like, what's the word? Just, I don't know, just line things. Rope. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, rope.
I'm sorry. Like a long rope thing, and so you could like get the angles and stuff, and just like hung a whole bunch of them, and that's like how he made his buildings. Shut up! I'm sorry.
That's really cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think it's Gaudi. It might have been something.
Oh, I'm
But I
sure it
think
is.
so.
Yeah.
Because it was like because they showed it. There was like a thing that I was looking at that was inside the building.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry, Mike. I
Yeah,
can't-
there's the melting ice cream place, right? Very cool. Yeah. All right. Maybe I can get it to link up here.
That's what my phone looks
Hold on, I'm gonna.
It's like just fingerprints when it's a gloss. Which
Yeah.
isn't a lot anymore because I can't look it. But
Okay.
these are upgrades. I don't know. I'll soon hopefully.
So